A limp will teach you responsibility, my mother said, looking me dead in the eye while sliding a brand new set of luxury boat keys across the kitchen island. I was sitting in a wheelchair, holding an X-ray of my shattered ankle and begging for $3,500 to cover emergency surgery. My father didn't even look up from his tablet. My sister snickered into her coffee. The only person who stepped up was my younger brother, who sold his prized mechanics tools to give me $500, crying because it wasn't enough. What my mother and father forgot was a small legal detail buried in my late grandmother's trust. The very house they were living in, the one they treated like their personal kingdom, didn't belong to them. It belonged to me. And 6 months later, when the moving trucks pulled up to the driveway on a rainy Tuesday morning, my mother finally learned what real responsibility felt like. My name is Clara, I'm 27 years old, and up until 6 months ago, I believed that blood was thicker than water. I worked 2 jobs, saved every penny, and tried to build a simple life for myself. But a rainy night on an icy stretch of highway changed everything in a split second. A drunk driver ran a red light, T-boning my car and shattering my right ankle into a dozen pieces. The surgeons told me I needed an emergency reconstructive procedure to ever walk normally again. The catch? My insurance had a massive deductible gap, leaving me $3,500 short. Broke and desperate, I turned to the only people I thought would protect me, my parents. I'll never forget sitting in a wheelchair in the middle of their spotless, marble-trimmed kitchen. My mother, Evelyn, stood across the island, carefully polishing a brand new set of keys to the luxury speedboat she and my father had just bought. I held up my X-ray, tears streaming down my face, begging for a loan. My father didn't even bother looking up from his tablet screen. My older sister, Vanessa, leaned against the counter, snickering into her iced coffee. "You're 27, Clara," Vanessa sneered. "Stop expecting handouts." Then my mother set the boat keys down with a sharp click. Her steel blue eyes locked onto mine, completely devoid of warmth. "We just put down 50 grand on the boat, Clara," she said, her voice dripping with ice. "We aren't wasting money on your carelessness. Besides, a limp will teach you responsibility." That cold, callous sentence hung in the air, severing the final thread of love I had for them. I left my parents' house in total silence, the sting of their cruelty far worse than the throbbing in my shattered ankle. The only person who came after me was my 22-year-old brother, Leo. Leo was an apprentice mechanic who lived off meager hourly wages, but his heart was bigger than the rest of the family combined. 2 days later, he showed up at my apartment, red-eyed and holding a crumpled stack of $100 bills. He had sold his prized, professional-grade tool set, the very tools he needed to build his future. "It's only $500, Clara," Leo sobbed, placing the cash in my lap. "I'm so sorry I couldn't get the rest." That $500 paid for a basic bare minimum procedure, but without the full surgery, my ankle healed wrong. I was left with a permanent, painful limp. Determined to clear my medical debts, I spent the following weeks digging through old family documents, hoping to find records of an old savings bond my late grandmother Evelyn had mentioned years ago. But what I found in those yellowed folders wasn't a bond. It was a certified legal deed. My eyes scanned the legal jargon in disbelief. The massive 5-bedroom home my parents lived in, the one they treated like their personal kingdom, didn't belong to my mother at all. Grandmother Evelyn had placed the house into a life estate trust that automatically transferred full, unencumbered ownership directly to me on my 25th birthday. My parents were living in my house, entirely rent-free, while telling me that a limp would teach me responsibility. Sitting at my kitchen table with the legal deed in my trembling hands, a cold realization settled over me. I wasn't going to scream, cry, or beg anymore. I was going to let the law handle what my mother called responsibility. The next morning, I limped into the office of a high-powered real estate attorney named David Vance, bringing Leo along with me. Mr. Vance took one look at the trust documents, ran a title search, and leaned back in his leather chair with a dark chuckle. "Your parents have been living on borrowed time, Clara," he said. "Not only do you legally own this property outright, but according to county records, Your mother filed forged paperwork 3 months ago trying to take out a $700,000 reverse mortgage against the house. My stomach flipped. They were trying to steal the equity from a home that wasn't theirs to fund their luxury boats and tropical vacations, all while telling me they didn't have $3,000 for my surgery. What do we do? I asked, my voice steadying. We file an emergency injunction to lock the title, Mr. Vance replied, a sharp smile spreading across his face. Then, as the sole legal owner, you exercise your right to sell. Over the next 4 weeks, while my parents were off showing off their new boat to their country club friends, Mr. Vance and I quietly listed the property on an off-market luxury network. We set the price below market value for a fast, all-cash transaction. On a Thursday afternoon, the call came in. An investment group made a full cash offer, waiving all inspections, with a mandatory 30-day closing window. The trap was set, the papers were signed, and closing day was officially locked in. While the closing papers were being processed in secret, my parents remained blissfully unaware, completely wrapped up in their world of artificial status. 2 weeks before the final takeover, my mother called to invite me, or rather, to demand my presence, at an intimate family dinner party. Walking into that house felt like stepping onto a movie set built on lies. The dining room table was set with heavy crystal and sterling silver. Surrounding the table were my parents' wealthy friends, hanging onto every word my mother spoke. "We believe in tough love," my mother declared proudly, raising her glass of expensive wine. When Clara came to us asking for a handout after her little accident, we put our foot down. Parents today spoil their children, but a little hardship builds character. My sister Vanessa giggled, adding, "She was literally begging for money, like a child. But Mom made sure she learned her lesson." The room chuckled politely, agreeing with her twisted philosophy. I sat at the end of the table, resting my hands on my lap, feeling the faint throbbing in my improperly healed ankle. I didn't yell. I didn't spill my wine or cause a scene. I just smiled, took a sip of water, and watched them toast to their fake empire. Every laugh from my mother, every smug remark from my sister, only solidified my resolve. They were drinking expensive vintage wine in a grand house they believed was their birthright, completely oblivious to the legal notice already traveling through the mail. Their kingdom was made of sand, and the tide was about to come crashing in. The rainy Tuesday morning of closing day arrived with cinematic timing. At 8 a.m. sharp, a commercial moving truck pulled into my parents' circular driveway, followed closely by 2 county sheriff cruisers and my attorney, Mr. Vance. I sat in the passenger seat of Mr. Vance's car, watching the scene unfold like a play I had spent months directing. My father ran out to the porch in his bathrobe, waving his arms in a panic. My mother stormed out right behind him, her face flushed with fury as she shrieked at the movers for blocking her driveway. "What is the meaning of this insolence?" she screamed, trying to block the head deputy. "This is private property. I will have every single one of you fired." That was my cue. I pushed open the car door and stepped onto the wet asphalt. Every step was accompanied by the slight, familiar limp they had forced upon me, but my head was held higher than it had ever been. "They aren't trespassing, Mother," I said, my voice cutting cleanly through the rain. "You are." She froze, her eyes darting from me to the heavy legal folder in Mr. Vance's hands. "Clara, what kind of sick prank is this? Get back in your car." Mr. Vance stepped forward, opening the folder to reveal the official county seal. "Mrs. Evelyn, this property was transferred to Clara on her 25th birthday via your mother's trust. Clara has legally sold the home to an investment firm. You have 2 hours to gather your personal belongings before the locks are changed." My mother's face went completely drain of color. The arrogance vanished instantly, replaced by sheer, unadulterated terror. I leaned in close, looking her dead in the eye just as she had done to me 6 months ago. "A limp taught me responsibility," I whispered smoothly. "Now an eviction will teach you yours." The high-end neighborhood watched in stunned silence as my parents' world imploded on the front lawn. The arrogance that had sustained them for years vanished, replaced by desperate, hysterical pleading. My sister Vanessa grabbed my arm, tears ruining her expensive makeup. Clara, please. You can't do this to your own family. Where are mom and dad supposed to live? I pulled my arm away without a second thought. The same place you expected me to live when I was broken and broke. You'll figure it out. Because of the emergency nature of the sale, the full cash payout hit my secure account within 48 hours. The very first thing I did was drive straight to the mechanic shop where Leo worked. I handed him a heavy set of keys to a brand new service van parked outside, fully stocked with top-of-the-line, professional-grade tools to replace the ones he had sacrificed for me. Leo broke down in tears, hugging me right there on the shop floor. For the first time in months, they were tears of pure joy. With the remaining proceeds from the home sale, I purchased a beautiful, sunlit single-story cottage outright. No mortgages, no debts, just complete peace of mind. My parents, on the other hand, faced a brutal reality check. Without my house to leverage, their illegal loan applications collapsed. To cover back taxes and attorney fees, they were forced to sell their precious luxury boat at a massive loss. The couple who used to look down on everyone from their marble kitchen was forced to pack up into a cramped, two-bedroom rented apartment on the outskirts of town, stripped of their artificial status forever. Sitting on the porch of my new cottage, watching the sunset over the quiet garden, I finally felt at peace. Every step I take still carries a faint, physical reminder of that icy night, a small limp that will stay with me for the rest of my life. But it no longer represents pain or helpless defeat. Instead, it serves as a permanent badge of honor, reminding me of the day I stood up for myself and reclaimed my life from people who were supposed to love me. My mother thought she was teaching me a cruel lesson in humility, but all she did was reveal who she truly was. In trying to break my spirit, she unknowingly handed me the key to my own freedom. Leo and I are closer than ever now. He recently opened his own independent auto repair shop, funded entirely by his own hard work and the support we give each other. We built a real family out of mutual respect and genuine sacrifice, leaving the toxicity of our past behind us for good. Life has a funny way of balancing the scales. Responsibility isn't about letting people walk all over you under the guise of family loyalty. It's about holding people accountable for their actions, no matter who they are. Now, I want to ask all of you watching, if you were in my shoes, would you have sold the house and left them with nothing, or would you have given them another chance? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to mention what city you're watching from today.